All right, c4 again. We're always going to start with this one. Very common to see e5 as a response, but not forced or anything. Bishop c5, so I'm already guessing that we might not see the move d5. But I'm going to start with a3, and what do we love to do? We love to play a3, e3 against that bishop, and just start pushing it around, right? Bishop on d6 should absolutely not be there. Let's bring our bishop out. It's already, I would say, pretty successful in the opening. The bishop doesn't really look good. Let's play knight c3. So we got all of our typical moves that we just talked about. The queen wants to go here. The knight wants to go here. All that. Thinking about queen here. There's c5, but after bishop e7, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that anything is really happening there. I'm gonna make this move work. I think we might just play this one to stop e4 and then just go like that. And again, our queen is gonna end up on that square. Kind of so focused on playing my setup here that I suppose we didn't even win a free piece, which was there with c5, but he's really testing my limits here. I really want to show the setup. I really want to show where all the pieces go. And it's like, oh, there's a free piece there. Okay, all right. Kind of killing me here. It's like I kind of have to take a free piece if it's offered twice. What kind of guy would I be to not take a friendly, peaceful offering? Knight a5. Okay, I think we will just castle. But at least we're seeing where the pieces go. Knight f3, knight c3, bishop e2, bishop b2, castle, queen on c2, and the rooks come to the middle. Usually, well, almost always this rook will go to c1, so that's nice to keep in mind. But there's so much material that's dropping here that I kind of have to take it. I kind of have to take it. Take that. And at this point, we're a little bit devoid of the opening themes, but you get the idea. Queen f5. Bishop d3 would almost be mate. Let's take. Bishop d3 intended. Even king h8 doesn't help. Yeah, so here the rook can move, and it's not quite checkmate, by the way. The game is not completely over here. We want to take and play knight h4, knight f5, but we don't even need knight h4. That will just be mate. That will just be mate. So again, a lot of pieces offered, but still, notice how black played these two moves, and what have I been saying? That white always plays e4, c5, bishop c4. Well, you can see the reverse still happens. People love this opening. I don't know why, but a3 is a great response. Take away both of these squares for the bishop, and then push forward with b4. And this is just really pleasant. Yeah. So great start there. All right, Rod. We do get a Sicilian here. And bishop c4. That opening. Wow, it's so common, right? Everyone's going for this little checkmate idea. Guess what? The Sicilian that we're gonna play is e6, and it's pretty effective because it always keeps you safe from these checkmate ideas. What did I say about d4? Every time it happens, we take. And if the queen takes, well, this is just comfortable. Our knight wanted to go there anyway. This is part of the Taimanov. And you're telling me I can attack the queen in the process? Why, thank you very much. All right, then the next move is the queen. In this case, because of the way white's developed, we actually did have a threat of knight e5 there. which white incidentally defended by making a good developing move, knight f3. I mean, there's knight b4, hitting c2, knight b4, queen e2. But I just don't think it's necessary. I'm gonna stick with our plans here of simply a6. Okay, but now after knight c3, although we have b5, bishop b7, I'm also spying some tactics here. Knight b4, knight takes c2, and queen takes c4. So there are tactics in this position, which is why I think I'm going to do this. But the reason I want to do these tactics is to show you that this bishop c4 often is not, I mean, it's just not good. I really have a bone to pick with this opening. We're just going to go back. Okay, b5. Don't know if knight b5 is the intention here. Kind of looks like it, honestly. But I'm up a lot of material here. I think we can just go like this. The worst that's going to happen is we lose one pawn. Okay, this knight's attacked. Obviously, we need to do something about that. We're gonna need to move this knight. Moving it is honestly a little bit annoying, I'm not gonna lie. But I suppose that's the price you pay for being ahead material. Okay, knight d4, knight f6. Pretty good game by Rod. I'm gonna make sure we play the move that we want to play anyway, which is always take with the queen. Knight d5. c4 is honestly a good move. I like the move c4 by my opponent. I'm going to be ultra greedy and take that. Ultra greedy and get over here. I mean, this is max greed, right? We're going for like the finish here. Okay. There's a few moves coming up, namely taking on f3. Let's make sure to check. We'll take this. Bring our king out, and now there should be no problem. I like f5 just to block all the pawns. Yeah, now we bring our king up. The reason I'm moving this pawn is so that white has absolutely no moves. So now we're able to pre-move the entire checkmate. GG. I couldn't pre-move this because he could play f3 or f4. That's why I did that. Just to make sure. So what the heck happened here? Long game. But ultimately, it was this move that right here that always sets things off on a bad note. Bishop to c4. I don't like that move. I got a bone to pick with it. Yes, 95. But I like just sticking with our basic setup here. It's like ideal. b5 would be a great move, but knight knight to b4 did win material with knight c2. So even if queen here, I figured we take the extra material to the bank. But yeah, what would the normal setup be? It'd be something like this. Bishop b7, knight f6, bishop e7, castle, right? This is all we need to do in the Taimanov. So far so good. It's getting, you know, the first couple hundred points here, just getting familiar with the setup. So if you're able to remember where the pieces go, what order we play the moves in, I'll be happy with that. Okay, e4. We do get our Sicilian. Let's see what we get against it. Okay, c4. Interesting. Well, as you can see, our moves are going to remain the exact same. Let's do the queen first. We want a6. Again, if the knight hits us with knight b5, we go back to b8. That's all the time. g3. How often are we going to see this move? I'm telling you, it is the fan favorite. People love to play that. I did not realize this was so popular. Really didn't. Whoa. Okay, because I'm seeing castling on this side, I was gonna go b6, bishop b7, but now I'm thinking rook b8 and b5. Just really go for the attack. So still the same idea. Our pieces are still on all the normal Taimanov squares, but queenside castling is too much. Now I need b5. Okay, bishop there. It's not gonna stop us from playing b5. Okay, pawn takes, keep pushing, keep making threats. This is why the Sicilian is such a nice opening. We're covering these squares, we're covering d5, bishop's being blocked. It's a really, really comfy position. All right, I see this move and I see knight b3. That's the first thing that jumps out to me here. So knight d4 is a no-brainer. Knight takes b5, rook takes b5, so that we have knight b3. And yeah, if he overlooks it altogether, then of course knight b3 wins the queen, and with it the game. But that queenside castling was always going to be a little optimistic, I think. Okay, especially with a4, that can't help. Ooh, the disconnection. A disconnection. That's okay. For every person named Daniel who quits chess because of this game right here, there will be someone else in chat who starts chess because of the great Taimanov speedrun. So we're going for net positive good done to the chess community. All right, let's go for c4. Usually people go for e6, but of course they don't have to. Keeping our same setup here. Of course, it's not super effective against this. The whole point of the Sicilian is like you take and maybe the knight takes back. So here it's a little bit different, but I think we can keep the more or less the same setup. This is what the Taimanov's all about. Queen here, knight here. We're gonna go bishop e2 next, castle, and then b4, bishop b2. Bishop b2 is going to be even more well placed now that we've seen g6. So that's kind of nice. Okay. CE5, I definitely feel like taking kind of has to happen. So I think I am going to take this. Yeah, and now rook c1, I think. We've got all our pieces literally to the exact squares that I would want them. I can't think of anything better. Knight to b5. I think that looks like a good move. Hitting the queen and also hitting this pawn. Might not be... I don't know, my opponent might not have noticed that. Knight c7. Now more things are falling, unfortunately. For Haskell, he really didn't play poorly at all. Queen here, I'm going to be a little mean. Instead of taking this, we're going to take this. Queen b6, and then I'm going to take it. And yeah, he's running out of squares, put it that way. Ouch. Ouch. And at this point, I think bishop takes f6 was just fine, but why not keep my amazing bishop on the diagonal? So I'm gonna do that. Yeah, this bishop is so strong. Why not keep my amazing bishop on that diagonal? Well, because I'm gonna win a piece. That's why we don't keep that amazing bishop on that diagonal. But if I wasn't winning a piece, then I wouldn't have done this. That'll get me to go back on my word. A free piece. See how easy I am to convince? Hitting knight, so we should see knight e6 or knight c6 to save it here. I think it's just take pawns time. I have my knight though that I can bring in and go for queen f7 and a checkmate. Not queen h7. Oops. Queen takes f8. That should do the trick. GG. So yeah, these first couple 100 points. Yes, there's lots of blunders still. We get to see the setup, where the pieces go, but ultimately, most of the games are decided by, you know, tactical play rather than just the opening itself. So I like to use these early games to mostly just talk about the opening and use the repetition to get familiar. All right, speaking of repetition, let's see if we can remember the order that we play these moves. e4, c5. We start with e6. Now, when we see this bishop move, and I've mentioned it a lot because guess what? It's super popular. Everyone seems to like this move. After a6, e6 to take away those squares, I'm going to start with b5. Attacking the bishop. It now needs to retreat somewhere. And although c4 is a move, I'm going to stick with our standard stuff, which is pawn takes, bishop to b7, and these kind of moves coming up next. All right, so this is the exact setup we want. Knight c6, knight takes, queen takes. Not pawn takes, not bishop takes, always queen takes. So I think we're getting a little further into the Taimanov in this particular game. Knight c6, and we're ready to take back with the queen. Oh. That's unfortunate. That just simplifies things, doesn't it? Well, we're gonna keep at it. Hit that queen. I think we might still stay at it. Bishop e7, and finally the queen moves somewhere where it's actually safe. It is safe. Rook c8, d6, knight back to c6 if we get attacked. Okay, it's threatening that move, so now it is really time for this. Before my queen was covering e5, so that was okay. And we have this, which is comfortable. Taimanov speedrun. Did I read your mind? Maybe. So good at doing it, I didn't even know I did. But I'm glad that that it suits you. Queen G7 is not a threat at all, so we want to encourage that move, in fact. I'm looking at this. I think we have some pawns we can go hunt down here. Of course, castling is always an option, a safe option. Knight C2. Because we know that if queen takes rook G8, we actually take on G2, and it gets bad for white. Not to mention, there are 2 rooks hanging in the current position. So the queen is hanging, but this rook is also hanging. I think we're just gonna go for the double whammy. Take the queen, then take the rook. GG. Unfortunately, our opponent hung a knight on d4, so we didn't really get into this game. But that was the setup. I mean, again, on this bishop move, always the 2 pawns first, and then we're likely going for b5 right away. Bishop b3 would already lose the bishop. What am I playing when I play with the white pieces? Well, maybe you'll see in a sec, but I've been playing c4 and often going for the reverse Sicilian, so you still get very familiar with the ideas and where the pieces go. All right, Eddie Joe. We got another Sicilian here. Knight f3, e6 we're gonna go for. d4 is the standard move. We're gonna take it back, but we're at 500 elo. So bishop c4 is the standard move. And what have we been doing every single time? Take the squares away with the pawn. Now, this is actually one of the first times that we've seen a4. Not many people actually stop you from doing what you're trying to do. Like when you play b5, I mean. So I'm just going to continue as normal. Knight c6, queen c7. The squares are both covered at the moment. And even though I can't play b5, I'll probably just settle for b6, bishop b7. And it'll work out to be very, very similar. There's that d4 move we want to take. And it's almost crazy, like, you know, why isn't there a tactic that wins that bishop? But unfortunately there isn't here. It just kind of, it looks like there should be, but there's not. I'm gonna play knight f6. Takes we can take with the pawn or the queen. Both should be fine. But our general rule has always been, and you guys know it, if the b pawn is there, take with the b pawn. If the queen is on c7 and our b pawn has moved, then take with the queen. So we're gonna take with the pawn and go d5. d5 is the plan. You take and immediately go d5. You want to get that ASAP. And if they take, you always take with the c pawn. Always, always, always. Never this way, because that just opens up the rook, and I like keeping the pawns all together like that. A6 pawn is actually really useful right here. And I think we can also gain a bit of time by playing bishop d6 to threaten a free pawn on h2. So more good things for our position. Yeah, and bishop e7 is so simple to get developed, but I am going to take the opportunity to threaten that pawn because I think may as well gain some time. Why the heck not? There we go. There's a good move. I'm actually going to copy him and play h6. Castling is fine, but may as well stop bishop g5, bishop d7, castles, and I think black's position looks tremendous here. Okay, there is our bishop move. Love that pawn on a6, right? I mean, it's actually, without that pawn, we'd be in big trouble here. Rook e1, okay, castle, right? We know where our pieces want to go. Now, what am I going to do? Well, the knight and bishop support the pawn, so I'm actually thinking about e5 and d4, and that looks really, really strong. Lo and behold, bishop there, which means I'm not even going to pause for a second. I was going to play this anyway. Now it just makes even more sense. You think these speedruns help with openings more than chessable or variations in real problem solving? Tommy, I hope you mean that because first of all, that's a very nice thing to say. Second of all, that's the reason I do them. I think they are more useful. I think you see variations that the real people actually play, you know? I'm on the ground. I'm doing field research here. These are the moves people actually play. If you went and you learned a course on the Taimanov, do you think there would be like a whole section of the course dedicated to this move? I can tell you that I've read a really, really good book on the Taimanov. It made me a great player in that opening, and it never mentioned this move once. Not once. And so far, it's made up about 60% of my games. 60%, I mean, like, you see it almost every other game. There's bishop c4 or bishop c5. It's a lot. So it helps, even if it's not the best move, to be very well prepared. What the heck do you do when someone does that? Because guess what? That's what people are playing. And obviously, as we move up the rating ranks a little bit, we'll run into other moves that are more challenging. We probably won't see this move ever again. But you're not going to make it to those ratings if you don't know how to handle this one, that's for sure. All right, c4, right? And, you know, c4 won't always get met with e5, but that's okay. Whoa. Talk about bringing that queen out early. Knight f3, bishop e2, castle, right? You guys should know. I'm hoping that even by watching just for a little bit here, that you guys will be able to identify the moves that we should be playing to get out of the opening. F6 does not protect f5, my friend. Why are people so addicted to playing bishop f5? I don't know. This is another one of those things where it's like, if you don't do a series like this, I don't even think you become privy to that knowledge, but people love attacking this queen. It's so bothersome to them that it sits there on c2 or c7. Here's another example. Knight b4, it's like, okay, it's kind of a cool move, but what have I always said about knight b4? We always respond with queen b1. Now in this case, he was trying to use the pin on my rook, but the move queen b1 is such a good move that it forces black to move the knight back anyway. Okay, not going to overthink things here, just simple development, kingside castle. Okay, so here comes, I don't know if this, I can even call this an attack. It honestly seems like a massive compliment to that move to even refer to it as an attack, but okay, there's the attack. G6 is hanging, which is the first thing I noticed, so I'm probably going to go take that. But B4 gets my bishop out. Yes, it might lose a pawn, but guess what? I'm up a piece here, and opening up a line against the king will almost always be a good thing. Okay. Did not see my sneaky idea there. Having my rook uncovered from A1. Oops. Bit of a mistake by my opponent. Queen can come in and capture on B6. And I think we want to do this as opposed to moving our rook. I know this loses material, but it also will probably get us a checkmate in just 2 moves here. And it does. GG. I mean, this was a disaster in terms of hanging pieces, right? There's not much I can say here. I'm just going for my setup. I have a free piece in my face. Knight b4 was indeed a tricky move. If you take, of course, queen takes a1. By the way, that position is probably still very, very good for white, but no need to allow it. Queen b1, I mentioned this before. Even if our pawn was here, knight b4, we would always play this queen move. Same with black, queen b8. This is important because you cover the squares the knight might want to go to, and your next move is going to be a3 if it's not there already, and you're going to force the knight to move, and then you can always return to your great c2 or c7 square. So that's why I like this retreat in answer to knight b4. Okay, another Sicilian. Many e4 games, of course, we can expect that. Bishop c4. Lo and behold, the most common opening that you will see against the Sicilian. Well, e6. We're ready for this move. a6. Cover these 2 squares. Now we go with b5, and we want to play bishop b7. That's our follow-up move to b5 all the time. And how many times have we been in this position? I've been in this exact same position with colors reversed just today in the show. So very, very comfortable. Knight c6. Yes, there's, you know, a move like c4, but it's not that good when the bishop can just retreat. So if queen e2, for example, that would win a piece. That'd be a great move, right? All right. Pawn to e5. So the first thing I'm going to do is probably start with this move. It hits the pawn here. This is actually a little bit clever in the sense that I can't capture on e5, because if I do, bishop takes my bishop. And the other thing that this does is it means I can't use a lot of the normal squares that I would like to use in the position. So now this comes from understanding that, you know, he probably has to take en passant. I'm gonna play d5. I could have also played d6. It would have done the exact same thing. But d5 is just more forcing. I like d5 more. It hits the bishop on e4, and if he takes, we take with the bishop. And now our knight comes out to f6. We castle, and again, all of our pieces have pretty much made it to those beautiful starting squares. Yeah, knight f6. We would love to take that bishop off your hands for you, sir. d4, well, it's a Sicilian, so let's get with the program. Every time we see d4, that's a capture. No questions asked. I think we want to take here. It is a free pawn after all. Okay, king goes this way. A rook on the d file is going to be extremely strong here. I think we can achieve that immediately by going long castle. This is a rather unique position because I think that long castling is not a move I would ever want to play, but because it, you know, immediately brings this pin, I think it's the right thing to do. Bishop takes, queen takes, and then queen h1 will be checkmate. Yeah, so if he defends checkmate here, I'll be very impressed. Because that's not an easy move to see. I'm expecting like bishop e3. Or maybe a queen move, but there's not many safe queen moves. Maybe bishop d2. But defending mate would be clap, clap, you know? Maybe he'll go for the move in between everything. I was just about to say knight e2. I was gonna say a move that goes in between everything I just said. It doesn't blunder the mate, but it does blunder the mate. It's like he won, but he also lost. He won the challenge, but he also lost the challenge. It's mate in 2. GG. Very hard to stop that mate. Everybody is addicted. Once you get this, I mean, it's just such a pleasant position here. e5 was played. We decided to play queen c7, bishop e4, and after d5, black just has an overwhelming position. Yeah, the pieces are just so well placed, and knight f6 boots the bishop off, or you lose the bishop, and look how strong those pieces are. Very good position, and that's to be expected when your opponent starts like this, okay? Trash opening. You should be getting great positions against it. So I hope that our review, essentially this has become a review class on how to handle this. So I hope it's helping.